Lord have mercy on all our souls. That's all I got for an intro. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your boy, Matt Diazable, coming at you with a new musical review. Thanks for coming on by. You the best. We out here. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen this band's name again, but yeah, they've been releasing more music and I'm reviewing more of their stuff. So let's get it. Today, I am checking out the latest release from a band called The Virgos with their latest album called Lord Have Mercy. If you've watched my channel before, you know I've covered this band before, but just in case if you're new, the Virgos are a doom slash sludge band based out of Pennsylvania. They claim to be Pennsylvania's heaviest band. That's their title that they're sticking with. Oh yeah. I first discovered them back in 2023 when I was listening to a podcast and they mentioned that their album that they released then was really good. So I checked it out and I was surprised that, not surprised, but I was going to check out this album, but I found out that they released something out in 2024 and I was like, oh, before I review this album, I got to go back and check out that album called Road to Noxen, which I will put the link down below for both those reviews if you want to check them out. Like I said, if you're into doom, sludge, or kind of like southern rock, kind of like Queens of the Stone Age, you definitely will find something that you like here. If Road to Noxen was, the Virgos, clawing their way back to the surface, battered, bruised, blurry-eyed after being stuck inside the swamp of Pennsylvania Death Trap, their first album back in 2023, then Lord Have Mercy is them standing tall amongst the wreckage of their previous albums and just preaching to the void and just having a grim conviction to them. The record doesn't just rebuild what this band is trying to make here, they are reclaiming it. The haze that they built on their previous albums definitely remains here, but it has more of a purpose now. Its atmosphere is very sharpened with more intent and it has a very, I guess you could say, stronger tone here that's just forged in a very nice ceremony. And I feel like the Virgos this time around are probably at their most self-assured they've ever been. I would say, they're not trying to escape their doom roots here. If anything, they're taking those roots and reshaping them to make something new and just bending it to their will while, just making something really amazing here. While their previous album, Road to Noxen, kind of drifted in between like a fog and a fatigueness to it, this album, Lord Have Mercy, moves with a sense of purpose and control. It's heavy, deliberate, and ritualistic. I feel like the opening song, Devil's Command, is the perfect missing link between these two albums. Because it's slow, distorted, and just drenched in dread, but it has a very polished and new clarity to their sound. Production here really breathes. The instruments feel very massive and just have a very yet balanced feel to it. And I feel like each layering has a very nice sculpted fuzz to it that doesn't really smother things this time around. It really does set the mood perfectly here because it feels like you're properly descending into the abyss instead of just stumbling into it. So here's a small clip of Devil's Command. So gloomy, so dreadful. It's nice. Then from this point on, Lord Have Mercy really seems to expand on the band's sound instead of fracturing it. Her Majesty and The World Ain't Dead really pulse with a lot of energy that, the previous album, Noxen, seemed to hint at but never really fully capitalized on. The riffs really swing instead of just slumping and being too sludgy. The bass punches forward and just, adds a lot of gloom and that has a good sense of movement to it. I would say this is doom metal with a lot of grace and muscle to it. And I would say the Virgos have really rediscovered momentum with this album and it really suits them. I would say the band isn't trying to abandon any introspectiveness that they've been known for. If anything, they've integrated it better into their sound. And I would say one of the perfect and probably best songs on this album is the song Iron Gauntlet, Velvet Glove, that really just shows how swelling and epic this track is and how the Virgos can be, how it just encapsulates the entire album in one song. The heavy sections on this song really sound very monolithic and kind of almost sound very similar to Pennsylvania Death Trip, while the slower and softer passages really reflect a dreamy, melancholy feel that you got more on Noxen. The contrast here feels really natural instead of very experimental, and I would say the band have really eased into with their contradictions and contrasts on this particular song. Just like the name, like Iron Gauntlet, Velvet Rope, there's this contrast between like a dark, gripping iron hold to a very soft, velvety glove that they just go back and forth on this epic track. So the band's ebb and flow just really shift from brute force to very soft serenity, really capturing the whole momentum of this song and just invoking a lot of feelings. So I want to play a small clip of this song, Iron Gauntlet, Velvet Rope, so you get a sense of just the introspectiveness and the ebb and flow they're bringing with this style of music. That transition from soft to heavy, smooth like butter. Even the interlude on this album, The Hypnotist, really speaks to how, the band has really found a newfound sense of control. Compared to Noxen, where, they had like interludes that had some ambience that often felt like smoke just drifting on by, this interlude song really builds like a ritual. Samples, the drums, the guitars are all like colliding together to really create something like they're summoning something very dark and deliberate. That momentum carries on into the next song, She Was in a Trance, where the Virgos really channel and lean into their gothic tendencies. It's a dark romance of a song that channels Peter Steele's vocals, and if I wasn't tripping or anything, I would have thought this was a type O negative song, which is how he's singing and his inflection sound. So I think it might be the most atmospheric piece on this record and possibly one of the most atmospheric things they have ever written. So here's a small clip of that song, She Was in a Trance. And everything, tell me that doesn't sound like a typo negative song. The back half of the record really explores texture without ever really losing any intensity, like on the songs Bone Hard and Personal Thing, where they experiment with tone and influence. It's a weird mixture of almost like Marilyn Manson like menace with Pantera crunch and very swampy doom metal style playing here. And instead of sounding really scattered and all over the place, these elements just all come together very nicely to really burst some really cool Virgo sonic identity. And so I feel like the band has reached a point where, their genre blurring tendencies don't really sound like, they're trying to copy other genres. It's just their experiments are, coming to fruition, and it just sounds like a signature sound to the Virgos. And so they close out the album with the song Babylon Live, which feels very almost symbolic in a way. Its synth-heavy, bluesy spookiness really nods to their past flirtations of like dark wave and almost industrial elements. And so it seems to end the album not in a very chaotic way, but in a very reverence and very, very cathartic way, like a sermon fading out at the very end. It's a nice touch. Road to Noxen was a bit of a transitional point in the band's career. It's a bit textured, a bit uneven, introspective, but a bit uncertain. I would say Lord Have Mercy is the sound that the Virgos were trying to attempt, and they have finally arrived at the sound of the Virgos. Seems like they've really distilled the essence of everything that came before with their previous records, the sludge and just weighted feel of Pennsylvania Death Trip, combining it with the haze and the melancholiness of Noxen to create something that is very, cohesive, commanding, and just overly deeply alive. The riffs are hitting harder and they're quite sludgy. The pace is more deliberate, and I feel like the atmosphere that they've been trying to really build feels very earned and not just applied to their style. It's really catered to, this Virgo style that they're making. It's tighter, it's heavier, and it's more emotionally assured. I wouldn't say it's a return to form, but it's more like an evolution past it. It feels like the Virgos aren't really like searching for an identity in the fog anymore. But instead, I would think they've found it in the fire here. I would say Lord Have Mercy has really solidified the Virgos as not just, some sludge disciples, but more like doom ambassadors. It's a record filled with power and poise, heavy and haunted, and at the end of the day, it is their own particular style of music that they're making here, and it's uniquely their own. So this latest Virgos album, Lord Have Mercy, I was really impressed by it, did a really good job. They've really come together to really forge something that's just uniquely their own. I gotta say, solid and good, 9 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this album, other doom sludgy bands I should check out. And until next time, guys, see you in the pit.
Been thinking good things about you. Cool and warm, good things about you. If you've been